Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRFBets race of the day for Saturday, November the 2nd, race number 12 at Santa Anita. It is the Grade 1 $6 million Breeders' Cup Classic at 1.25 miles. You can bet the whole Breeders' Cup with DRFBets. Deposit $150, bet with $300. Bet the whole Breeders' Cup with DRFBets. Sign up is easy, drf.com/bet. Let's meet the field for the Breeders' Cup Classic. You can access free Formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Download them and handicap along with us. And Mike, I think the story of this race is that there are question marks everywhere. Does the number 8 McKinsey want to go 1.25 miles? How good are these 3-year-olds? Code of Honor and the Preakness winner, War of Will, and the Pennsylvania Derby winner, Math Wizard. Is Mongolian Groom for real, or was that last race simply a mirage? What happened to a late last time out in the Spinster? Is she going off form, or is she going to revert to the excellent race we saw in the Personal Ensign? What about Yoshida? He hasn't won a race in over a year. Lots of questions in this race. Sort of makes you think it's ripe for a price.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. I think, to me anyway, the biggest question of the race it surrounds McKinsey. I don't think you'll find too many people to disagree with this statement. He's the best horse in the race, and if he runs his A race, he's probably going to win. It's a real question of whether he can deliver his best race over this distance, though.
Thoughts on the Timeform U.S. pace projector, Mike? War of Will, the Preakness winner, adding blinkers for the first time, is expected to make the lead. We know McKinsey is going to be close to the race. Vino Rosso has shown improved tactical speed in 2019. He's up close to the pace. I'd have to think that Mongolian Groom's going to think about getting close up after what we saw last time out from him, but I think the pace will be fair. I think everybody will have a fair shot.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anybody should be too badly compromised by the way the race is run. Yeah, maybe War of Will will just find himself on the lead here. It's interesting because Mongolian Groom ran so big on the lead last time, but other than that, he hasn't been a true speed horse.
And there really wasn't that much pace for him. He kind of found the lead by default when McKinsey gifted it to him. We'll talk about him in a minute. Math Wizard's an intriguing story. He was claimed 3 times earlier in his career. He once ran for as low of a claiming tag as $15,000, and now he's a Grade 1 stakes winner, winning the Pennsylvania Derby. They turn into the stretch. You see War of Will in the pink silks. He's in between horses trying hard. You see Math Wizard on the far outside, and it's not like there was a big pace to set this horse up. He just happened to be better on this day. I'm not sure where this race came from, and now he's got to do it against tougher, older horses.
Yeah, and he's got to do it stretching out, too, to a distance that you just don't know if he really wants to go this far. Plenty working against him. He exits a career-best effort when pulling off that upset last time. It's going to be even harder for him to win this race.
Seeking the Soul is a really nice horse that's done some good things in his career. Winner of the Clark Handicap in 2017. This horse just missed in the Stephen Foster earlier this year, but his 2 most recent races are discouraging to say the least. The Pacific Classic, he just didn't fire as the favorite, one of several notable no-shows in that race. Last time out in the Awesome Again, if you want to make the excuse, he was compromised by the lack of pace on a speed-friendly track. Great. I'm a big fan of Seeking the Soul. I'm really not sure if 1.25 miles is his game. I actually probably would have fancied him a little bit more if they ran him in the dirt mile.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I don't really feel like 1.25 miles is what he really wants. They've tried it a couple of times, no success yet. I don't think I'll get too caught up in his Pacific Classic. It's almost like he was too bad to be believed that day. He ran a little better last time, but he didn't run that much better, Dan. I can't, say I love his last 2 races. On the positive side, he's a good horse. He does have a race in him that would get him a piece of this for sure. And he's been in California for a long time.
Owendale is a horse that's extremely underrated, and he has several excellent races leading up to this. It began with the Lexington, his coming out party in the spring at Keeneland. He backed that up with a good third in the Preakness, despite swinging very wide into the stretch in a race where the 1-2 finishers rode the rail. He then won the Ohio Derby with a clever ride for Florent Giroux, beating Math Wizard. The Travers can be forgiven. He was on the dead rail 100% of the way. It wasn't Florent Giroux's fault. He broke inside and he just got locked down in there. In the Oklahoma Derby, they weren't going to get locked anywhere. He broke from post 10, he stayed outside, and he's just better than these horses. Big jump up in class in the Classic.
Yeah, he's just going the right way as a 3-year-old. I like this win from him, Dad. He's not beating a very strong field, but just took a 4-wide trip. I thought it was a very strong effort for a 3-year-old who keeps getting better, I think, with every race. He's probably more a horse for next year than he is for the Classic this year, but he's pretty good, and he just keeps showing up and running good races.
War of Will, of course, was hampered badly in the Kentucky Derby. Gaffalione rode the rail in the Preakness to perfection. In the Belmont, he was compromised by racing on the deeper outside paths. The Jim Dandy, maybe you could say he was compromised by racing on the deeper inside paths. I did not like his race in the Jim Dandy. I did not like his race in the Pennsylvania Derby, where he was close to the pace and just couldn't seal the deal. Cassie's putting blinkers on, and it should sharpen this horse's speed, and he should get to the lead. But I have to be honest with you. I look at the blinkers going on as sort of a, we got to do something to wake this horse up. Maybe it's blinkers.
Yeah, maybe it is. I sort of agree with you. It sounds like you're kind of against him in here. I am too. I don't even know that I think 1.25 miles is a great distance for him. And all that stuff aside, I realized that you could sort of look at some of his races since the Kentucky or since the Preakness that he won with a perfect trip and make excuses for them. I just don't know if I'm really willing to do that. I don't think he's this good, at least right now, to beat this kind of a field.
Yoshida was a good fourth in this race last year at Churchill Downs. He bobbled at the start. He was far back. He sliced his way through in between horses on the turn, and he came with a good run to only be beaten 2 lengths behind a top horse in Accelerate. His last 2 races in New York I thought were good. McKinsey got the jump on him in the Whitney. Here's his race in the Woodward. He's a little bit far behind. He's in the White Silks. He's going to gradually alter course now to the far outside. He's going to come with his kick. Preservationist in good form at this time is just going to split horses and beat him. It takes Yoshida a while to get going. I actually like him at this 1.25 mile distance, Mike. The real question is this: how's he going to handle the Santa Anita surface, which at times can be speed friendly, and is there going to be enough pace to set him up? Because I really think you could make the argument that he is the best closer in this race.
Yeah, I could make that argument too. Yeah, that is the real question, Dan. Is he going to get the right trip and the right setup? Because he's a closer and he's dependent on help from others to run his best race. I'll just say that I think like you, he ran well in the Classic last year, and I think that was probably a better field than this one. I really thought his Whitney was a very good performance. He wasn't beating McKinsey that day, but I thought he ran an excellent second. And he just had no chance as far as I'm concerned in the Woodward last time. That was not a race that's set up for closers. And I thought he did well to get as close as he did in there. I think he's coming here in really good form. There's a way to look at him and think his best dirt races all come at Saratoga. So maybe he just really likes it there and he's not quite as good on dirt elsewhere. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case. If this race sets up for him, I think you're going to see him come running at the end.
A lot of folks are asking, why isn't a late running in the distaff against the fillies and mares? Why is she in here against the boys? I think the answer is twofold. Bill Mott will tell you it's because of the distance. She loves 1.25 miles and it's 3 for 3. And of course, the other one is they want to get away from Midnight Bisou, who's just handled her a couple of times this year. You and I are not big proponents of the bounce, but I think if a horse bounced, it might have been a late in the Spinster off that very taxing effort in the Personal Ensign 2 starts back. Let's watch the Spinster. She is 7-10 in this race. She is 3 wide. She has a good look at this. It looks like she's got the 2 horses beaten to her inside, and Blue Prize, a nice mare in her own right, but not at a late's level when a late's at her best. She just simply runs a late down.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat this this defeat, actually. This is just a disappointing loss for her. She got the right trip. She had every chance to win it, and she got run down by a horse that she's just supposed to beat on her good day. Obviously, that was not a late's good day. Will Saturday be it? I don't know, Dan. I can't say that I love her in this race, but I'm not, wildly against her either. I don't think that she has no chance in here. I understand that when you look at her 1.25 mile races, all right, there's 2 Delaware handicaps in there. She was never going to lose either of those races. Those horses are just no match for the good late. But there's also an Alabama to deal with at 1.25 miles. And I'll tell you what, she ran great that day, and she finished really strong. I actually do think 1.25 miles is a better distance for her. I don't think she's in over her head by any stretch of the imagination if she can run her best race.
I think a very intriguing contender in this race, and maybe I didn't rate this horse highly enough as higher power. He won the Pacific Classic 2 starts back at 1.25 miles. And yes, that was a race where several horses, Quip and Seeking the Soul, just did not show up. But he was very strong that day and ran a big number. In the Awesome again, he was expected to be one of the pace setters. And he stumbled terribly coming out of the gate. He lost all position and he basically lost all chance. So if you draw a line through that race, you're left with the 107 buyer going 1.25 miles in the Pacific Classic for a horse with tactical speed.
Yeah, correct. I think that is probably the way to look at him. To me, it all comes down to price with him, because I wouldn't trust him enough if he was started taking money in this race to bet on him. He's improved for Sadler for sure. His Pacific Classic is really good. I could look at it 2 different ways. Obviously, it's a strong figure and an easy win for him over this distance. But as you already sort of pointed out, I mean, once Quip threw in the towel on the far turn, this horse was all alone on the lead in there, and nobody really ran behind him. It makes the race tough to evaluate for me, but he does have an excuse for the last one. He should be forward in this race, and he's got an effort 2 starts back that's going to make him really tough in here.
7 consecutive triple-digit buyers for McKenzie, 9 out of the last 10. The one race where he did not earn a triple-digit buyer during that span, the Breeders' Cup Classic. Aha, a lot of people are going to say. It doesn't want to go 1.25 miles, but he had a legitimate excuse in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I thought they were flying up front early, and he was just part of that pace, and he simply packed it in. He ran better in the big cap at 1.25 miles, although beaten by Gift Box that day at 2.25. His Awesome again we'll take a look at right now. It was a race where after Higher Power didn't break, Mike Smith's supposed to put this horse on the lead. And instead he rode this horse with supreme overconfidence. He took him 3 wide on the backstretch, 4 wide in the backstretch. Mongolian Groom was able to make the lead, and Mongolian Groom's just not going to give up to McKenzie here in the lane. Now maybe Baffert was just using this race as a prep race to the Breeders' Cup Classic, and supposedly the last work, A Bullet, has Baffert beaming. This was not a great finish, but I think the ride had a lot to do to contribute to that non-effort.
Yeah, it probably did. I mean, you know, the other thing that, as you mentioned, maybe it was just a prep. It's hard to look at it that way because Mike Smith got fired after that race. So I don't think Baffert was too happy with the ride either. Listen, I don't know. Like I said before, you know, the 1.25 miles is a big question for him. You know, even though he was only beaten the nose going this distance at Santa Anita back in April, you know, I mean, I didn't see his excuse not to win that race. And it sort of felt like maybe the 1.25 miles would be the thing that worked against him that day. But to me, he's just the best horse in the race. And if he shows up and he runs his A race, I think he's going to win this race.
Mongolian Groom paid $52 in winning the Awesome again. He had always kind of hinted at being a decent horse. He started his career running for $30,000 maiden claimers, but he was 3rd in the big cap, finishing behind McKenzie, 2nd in the San Diego handicap behind a good horse in Catalina Cruiser, 3rd in the Pacific Classic. Wasn't embarrassed, I thought, in the Woodward when beaten less than 5 lengths by Preservationist. In the Awesome again, of course, he had everything go his own way. He got an easy lead. He backed down the pace. I also thought he ran in the stretch, and he galloped out about 1 mile the best. And all of the reports coming out of Santa Anita is that this horse just continues to thrive in the mornings. Maybe it was just a simple pace-aided fluke, that 110 buyer speed figure last time out. I just get the feeling he likes this course. He's versatile. I think 1.25 miles is fine for him. And in a race full of questions, why not take a chance at a price?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could look at the 110 as a pace-aided fluke and, you know, a McKenzie not firing and a Higher Power having an excuse at the start. You could do that certainly, and you could do it easily if he was going to be one of the favorites in here. He's going to be a big price once again. So you're supposed to try to find reasons to like this horse. He gave you a reason in his most recent race running at 110. I don't know if he can run another 110, Dan. But at a price, you could take a shot with this horse.
Vino Rosso Code of Honor threw it down in the Jockey Club Gold Cup last time out. We got a tape of that race. Vino Rosso very handy from the start on the lead down towards the inside. Code of Honor, winner of the Travers, attacking on the outside. They're going to come together here and bump in mid-stretch. Vino Rosso is going to show his fortitude down towards the inside to get his nose down, and then in a rather controversial disqualification was taken down and placed 2nd. So Code of Honor has completed a very prestigious Travers Jockey Club Gold Cup DQ, although the latter came by DQ, the latter double, the Travers Jockey Club Gold Cup double. I like what I've seen from Vino Rosso this year, Mike, because he was a horse that was a little bit green at 3, and you just got a feeling he was going to get better as he's gotten older. He's shown a lot more tactical speed, and I think the most important thing is he ran well over this track, winning the Gold Cup at Santa Anita at 1.25 miles.
Agreed. That's a big feather in his cap that he's already come out here over this distance and run a really good race. And I agree with all the other things you said. He's just come back a more mature horse as a 4-year-old. He's got a much better running style. He ran well in the Gold Cup last time. There's no way to deny it. I thought he got, in a lot of ways, one of the better trips in the race. And it did sort of look like Code of Honor was going by him in the stretch when he came out and bumped that horse. But still, he ran another good race. And it just feels like there's a lot pointing to him in here because he's going to get another good trip in this race, Dan, and you don't have to worry about distance.
Code of Honor's got a really great resume. 3rd in the Florida Derby, a race where there was no pace for him to run out whatsoever, and Maximum Security wired him. 3rd in the Kentucky Derby, where he got a really nice trip, and Johnny V shot up the inside, and he just wasn't good on that day. He won the Dwyer, where he did not get the right trip. No pace, very, very wide, just better than those horses. In the Travers, yes, he was on the best part of the track. Maybe you can say that flattered his performance, but I think the Jockey Club Gold Cup proves he's for real, and he wants 1.25 miles, and you can trust Shug McGahee to get a horse ready for a major race. This horse wins here, he's champion 3-year-old by a large margin, and he's knocking on the door for Horse of the Year.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that stuff. I'll admit that I was a little bit slow to come around on this horse. I wasn't a big fan of his early on. He's come back since that layoff after the Kentucky Derby, and he looks like, to me anyway, a totally different horse. The light has gone on with him. He's won 3 big races in a row. He's a contender in this race as far as I'm concerned.
Pick time for the Breeders' Cup Classic. We're both going to go with some prices in here. Listen, Mongolian Groom again. I think most folks are going to look at him negatively, that he was aided by the pace. A lot of things helped him last time out. I just want a price in here. I know he's sharp. I just think he's thriving at Santa Anita at the right time. I think Code of Honor is a very, very dangerous contender. McKinsey and Vino Rosso, logical horses. This is a spread race. I wish I could tell you I had a lot more confidence. I don't. I just think it's going to be a great spectacle. You are a fan of Yoshida. You give this horse some pace, he'll come rolling late. I think we'll both agree McKinsey's the horse to beat.
I do think McKinsey's the horse to beat, but he's not a short price that I'm, terrified to take a shot against. Again, I think if he runs his best race, he'll win. I think there are some real questions he has to answer, though. And I just like Yoshida's last 2 races. I think he's run really well in both of them. I know it was at Saratoga. Now he's got to ship out to California, and he's going to need a trip in this race. But I just think he's in really good form right now.
5, 8, 11, 10 for Mike. 9, 11, 8, 10 for me in the Breeders' Cup Classic, race 12 at Santa Anita. They're running for $6 million. You may not make $6 million with DRFBets, but if you have a strong opinion, you can make a score in the Breeders' Cup. Deposit $150 into your DRFBets account. Bet with $300. Bet the Cup with DRFBets. Learn more at drf.com/bet. Approximate post time for the Breeders' Cup Classic, 5:44 Pacific. Good luck.